Hi, I'm Martin Jarvis, and once again I want to welcome you to another perspective. Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. I watched those two episodes yesterday, the first two episodes, and I liked it. But you know, it was kind of disappointing. Disappointing because I'm a student of science. Not formally. You know, I've taken like 4 quarters of biology and biology labs, and done the fruit fly experiments, and that's about the extent of my formal training in science. But I am a fan of the whole quantum physics idea and all the stuff out there in the cosmos, and I'm with the scientists in their pursuit of knowledge and insight and understanding. But I'm also an old Star Trek fan. Now, I'm not a Trekkie. Trekkies are something that happened later on. You'd never catch me wearing Vulcan ears or carrying a little fake phaser or a uniform around. No. I was there when the original Star Treks were actually on TV, the series, each week. And I would sit there and watch them with my father, he on the couch and me on the floor, So I'm a Star Trek fan, okay, where I could quote the actual dialogue of those programs very, very easily. And so when the Star Wars came out, I believe it was in the 70s or so, or 80s, whatever, I was there, and I really enjoy science fiction. Now, I particularly enjoy the science fiction with a drama, with a serious storyline, not, the goofy ones and the comedies like Spaceballs. I've never watched that at all. I did watch The Orville, which later on, out of boredom one day, and years after it had already, finished airing, and I enjoyed it, so I watched all of those, but that was kind of goofy as well. I've watched the Deep Space Six and the Voyager, and the new ones, the Discovery, and all that stuff. I just love them. I really enjoy those, But with the Starfleet Academy, and my mind has really been intently focused on the science of today, I was a little bit disappointed, but I still loved it because the characters were cool and the storyline was great, and I'm really excited on watching the rest of the episodes. But when we were watching the other Star Treks, it was like there was a possibility of this reality, of there being Klingons, of there being Bajorians, and all the Jebadar and all those other characters, But as we're beginning to understand, the science of it all, and over the years, for the past 100 years or so, we've been looking for alien life, to contact us and all. But that's probably not going to happen. And really, and what I've been dealing with over this program over the past few months has been, the divide between science and spirituality, and suggesting that it's really one and the same, in a sense. Now, religion, that's altogether different. These are things that people simply came up with, and sometimes maybe with a scientific mindset early on to try to understand things that were not understandable. But we're talking about science and spirituality, and could there have been a creator or an originator or a source or something, or even an intelligent life form that functioned outside of our realm of what we would call the universe, that maybe our universe was in a petri dish of sorts and we're simply the creation of that, I don't have any problem seeing that. But as far as watching these characters on Starfleet Academy, the green ones and the blue ones and the ones with the ears and the eyes and all these certain physical traits that would differ from planet to planet, the unbelievable of that is that we are unique. We are unique to the planet that we have evolved on. Because of the elements, because of the gravity, because of the heat and the cold, and everything that we are exposed to created us to be what we are here. And what's very interesting, I think, to be borne to mind is that there are so many other variations that could have been, but just couldn't stand, first could have never even formed in this environment, and then continued on in this environment. And that's where this concept of evolution comes from, those that survived, and then continued creating, and then survived something else and continued creating. So we are very unique even in our appearance, because of the elements and the pressures and the forces that are prevalent on this planet, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that this is why we look like we do. This is why we have 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, why our internal organs are as they are. We are unique to this particular environment, that we have evolved in. And so then to find beings from other planets, throughout the universe is problematic, because it would take the conditions that we have been exposed to create beings that are like us. Okay, so the point is, it's very unbelievable or unrealistic to think that there are other human type beings out there like us. So what I'm suggesting is, so if there is life on other planets, and there probably is life, how we would define life. But without probably any of our characteristics, might just be a blob, whatever. So the characteristics wouldn't be the same. The physical appearance wouldn't be the same. Even thought process, what we consider thought process, wouldn't be the same as well. And I'm not saying, in a sense, less advanced, equally advanced, or more advanced, but just nothing like anything that we could conceive, because our entire ability to conceive existence is based on what we've experienced, okay? And so there could be nothing there. So there wouldn't be green people on another planet with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, or red people on another planet with 2 arms, 2 legs and a head. So all of these Star Trek programs, as wonderful as they've been to me, and entertaining, and continue to be, it's totally unrealistic. Okay. Even spaceships, where we see flying saucers or visitations from other planets and all. Even the spaceships, those are based on our belief, our reality of our existence. So you'd have a ship, and you'd have something somebody could go in, but they would look like us. They would have hands, they would have feet, they would have legs, and all. And that is not really realistic, considering that we are unique, and any being would be unique to the environment that they came up in. And if it's not with the attributes that we have been exposed to, it was very, very unlikely that they would be anything like us at all. Even communication, okay, it just wouldn't be the same. So we might consider, and I've heard scientists, and these scientists are way brighter than me, if there was intelligent life, they would be so far beyond us that they would have no reason to communicate with us. I mean, where'd that come from? If there were, maybe we're the most advanced, or maybe not. But who would know this? But I think the first thing we have to realize is, whatever they would be, whatever it would be nothing like what we could conceive or imagine, simply because our conceptions are limited to the environment that we have come up in, okay? And so I think it's very interesting. So that's the science aspect of it. From a purely scientific perspective, it's pretty much impossible that we would find anything like us out there anywhere. Okay, because not only is our existence unique to our planet and the forces that operate within our planet, we are also a result of the previous forces from our planet that affected those that were before us, or even affected the environment that would create such an environment that something could form that would eventually become us. Okay. And it's just very unlikely. The odds of that happening are astronomical, I guess, as Spock would say, right? And so that's from the scientific perspective. We could enter the cosmos, and we could examine this and examine that and go past the speed of this or whatever and look at our histories and try to determine how we came based on what we see from other new existing situations. But that's our limitation, is just to have a notepad out there to try to study, to figure out how things were when it started, and maybe be able to try to figure out how things are going to be when it's over, But it's finding other beings that we can identify with or communicate with or even recognize, just based on, from a scientific perspective, that's pretty much impossible. Now I want to throw something else in here. Now we could consider then that if there were beings out and about that look like us with the 2 arms, 2 legs, a head and all, that are similar to us in many of our characteristics, that the chances of them simply popping up somewhere else and looking just like us, in a sense, is unbelievable as well. It's not realistic to believe. But then you'd have to step into the realm of maybe seeding, right? Maybe there was an intelligent life. Maybe there is something greater that maybe looked like us, that planted seeds all throughout the galaxy in different places. That would be the only way, from a statistical perspective or a probability perspective, that beings could pop up looking like us, okay, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. So there would have to be something out there that seeded the galaxy with what either with their own characteristics or characteristics that they chose to create, okay? And if that was the case, that could be considered by lower life forms as God, as Allah, as Yahweh, as Krishna, as whatever. So simply not able to conceive of an intellect or a being with that type ability to be able to see the galaxies to its creation. That would be God, okay? Now there's, of course, the other alternative then is sort of what I've been presenting, is that we could be in that petri dish. And although this is our universe, we may simply be that which was created in this universe by something outside of the universe. And that would account for that whole thing that God was, always was and didn't have a beginning. Doesn't have an ending simply because that entity would be residing outside of our realm of existence. Okay, so of course to us it always was, based on our existence, our created existence, what created us always would have been. And that, would be in higher order, would be in higher intellect, something outside of even our understanding that didn't even originate or function within this which we call our universe, okay? That's something else. So I'm just suggesting then that first of all, religious or spiritual people, we need to really for ourselves define what God is. That God is something, okay? And if God is, and if God is something, what is God? And make sense of the existence of. And the only way to make existence of something that always was is simply that their existence is outside our realm of existence. So to us, that entity always was, okay? It's not too difficult. And that's interesting. Now I was having another thought, and it was very interesting, as I was thinking about the concept of dimensions, okay? And so if you have dimensions within a particular set of forces, like on Earth, you could then conceivably have beings that look pretty much the same. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Okay, just dimensions in this same realm of pressure and external forces and weather and even a similar genesis, a similar beginning, even evolution and all. Now in that respect, um, there could be an evolution. And the other individuals could pretty much look like us. So that's kind of problematic to most sensible thinking folks. Because what do you mean another dimension? How could that be? How could I be living in a dimension next to something and never see them, never recognizing them or anything? I don't know. But I was thinking, if I was out there fishing, in a boat, and I caught a fish. Now that fish, to its entire existence, and maybe its parents and its parents and its parents, that this environment that they were dwelling in, the water, this was reality. This was the only existence. But all of a sudden I catch that fish on a hook, pull it out of the water, and all of a sudden that fish is exposed to a whole new world that didn't even know it existed. In a sense, these were two dimensions that were functioning side by side, and this individual in this watery dimension had no clue of what was dwelling, not 2 feet away from its life. It was there. It's like another dimension. Didn't realize it, didn't see, didn't have the attributes or the ability to observe that which was dwelling right next to it. But interesting, we don't look like fish. Well, let's just put that on the back burner for a minute. Okay. And I'll give you an example of something that happened the other day. Kind of. It's like, so my kids, one of my children is off at college in another state. The other one is after college, functioning in another state. And I really don't like talking on the telephone, and I don't like texting so much. It seems so impersonal. I would like to talk to my kids, but I have a problem with that, because I just don't like, talking or even FaceTiming like that at all. So I came up with this idea the other day that I wanted to use my smartphone, my iPhone, to use that mirroring function to bring my phone onto my large screen television and then FaceTime my kids. And so then I put my phone over by the television, and so I could sit back on the couch, and it's just like we're communicating each other, in the living room. I'm on the couch talking to you, and just the other day I was speaking to my daughter, and she was fixing her hair, doing something, and she put her phone far away, so it was like we were in the same room just communicating with each other, and it was great. But we understand this. We comprehend this. We invented the iPhones. We invented all this technology. That was really nothing new, and it wasn't anything shocking, although it was fun. Okay, so then I thought, I'll call my daughter's dog in here. I'll call Legend in. Because when Legend is in the room and I'm on the phone with my daughter and she's saying, "Hi, Legend," in the same voice she always talks to him, that makes him feel so good, he can't get it. He can't conceive that my daughter is on this phone talking to him. It's just nothing. There's nothing there, okay? So now she's on this big screen and she's the same size really as she is when she's in the room. So I had an idea. I'll call Legend in so he could see Karis and and she could talk to him, and he can just get a really good feeling out of it, And so I called him in. He came in, and my daughter's sitting there talking to him. "Hi, Legend," the same voice she always does with her little dog that thrills him when she's present. He didn't even get it. Didn't even look, didn't even see her. It was oblivious to him. Even though her voice was the same, her image was the same, he didn't even, I don't even want to say comprehend it. It didn't exist to him. And he just came in. I continued communicating with my daughter, and he just sat up on the couch and was just sitting around like he always does. Wasn't even looking at the television. Why? Because from this dog's perspective, this dog is living in its own dimension. And my daughter on that mirroring image on that television, and it was real time. We were communicating right then with each other. That was a different dimension than my dog was able to perceive, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that we are functioning it could be functioning within dimensions that we're just not even familiar with what else is out there or who else is out there, and we're just not seeing it. And so in that sense then, there could be other human-like individuals, but we're just unable to cross over, unable to be able to experience their dimension as they're unable to experience ours. Okay, So there could be other folks, but if they look like us, they would probably have to have been formed and created in the same type environment that we were formed and created in. And that's something interesting to think about. But all in all, I guess what I'm suggesting is that we shouldn't be so quick to discount the existence of God, okay? And when I say God, we have to always be cognizant of the fact that this is a concept that was created by people who couldn't quite understand, but still had to put a label on something and try to understand where they couldn't possibly understand. So if there was an intelligent life outside of our existence, if there was a creator, a source of our existence, that really wasn't God in its own right, that to us that entity would be God, okay? So that is a possibility, even in a situation where there are other individuals that do exist. There must be something that initiated that existence, if that existence is similar, throughout the galaxy, I would think. Maybe not in the dimensions and all. But I just have a very difficult time. I guess I'm one of those. I mean, I was raised in the church. I was raised to believe in God and all the way it was taught. But as I got older, it was just unbelievable how each group had determined, that this those can't be right, but mine is right. And nobody really knew. As an aside, I was approached by a guy a couple days ago, a friend of mine, and we have lively debates. And he wanted to give me this, make an analogy from what we were talking about to people who maybe you had a Pentecostal and a Baptist who used the same book, but came up with different conclusions. And what I suggested is that's not really valid, because both individuals are simply arguing what they've chosen to believe. There is no fact in that. So when you're looking at a holy book, first of all, that you've embraced this particular holy book, aside from all the others, you've simply embraced something that you've chosen to believe. And then break it down even to the denomination or the sect of the religion or the varying religions that might use similar, pieces of the same book. Each group is simply believing what they've chosen to believe without any fact, okay? So, I mean, we just come a ways where I think in order to find truth, we have to recognize how much of what we have bought into is not based on fact. It's just based on what we've chosen to believe. And that should give us pause, because we're sending people to hell. we're killing ourselves thinking we're going to go have, 39, 31 virgins, or whatever that is, So I mean, whatever it is we've based so much critical decisions on, simply based on what we've chosen to believe, there's been no fact. Okay? And so then that transcends into what we're discussing today, humanity. As much as I love the Star Trek, it's just unreasonable to believe that there could be human-type forms all over this universe and there not be an intelligent designer or a seed planter. And if it was a seed planter, it would have to have been an intelligent design to be able to plant all those seeds as well, okay? And so what I wanted to do today is just give an opportunity just to begin to challenge yourself, Challenge yourself to stretch yourself, because we have so much potential as far as intellect goes, so much potential. If we could just take the barriers off, take the boundaries off, remove the cages from our minds and begin to think outside the box, right? Who knows what we can come up with? But we've done a disservice to ourselves and a disservice to humanity when we simply maintain this small little box of understanding that we're in, even though it doesn't make any logical sense, and determine that this is the way it is simply, okay? And I think, so I don't know what all the truths are. I'm just on this journey myself. It's what I call walking with my eyes open. That's what we need to do. Walk with our eyes open. Begin thinking. Begin contemplating. And I'm telling you, your mind is such that if you could come to the point, this is what we have to do as individuals. If we want to progress, we have to come to the point to be able to recognize That simply because it's what mama believed, or what daddy believed, or what the preacher believed, or even what the school teacher believed. They're still limited based on the environment and the exposures of their lives. We could take this to a higher place. Look, I have my children. My daughter's still in college. She's a junior and on her way to law school afterwards. My son is a college graduate. And whenever they come home to visit, my daughter's still in college, my son who was in college, whenever they come home to visit and we'd have conversations, I wanted them sharing with me things that I didn't understand. Because that affirmed to me that they're learning something. I don't want them simply regurgitating to me back the things that I imparted into them. I need to know that I gave them a foundation and that they're growing by leaps and bounds from that foundation. And when you come home to visit at Thanksgiving or Christmas, I need you to tell me something that I didn't know. Give me something to think about. Because even at that point, I can improve. I can increase. But let's not just hold on to all of our age. I was watching this thing the other day and it was kind of quaint, but it was kind of pitiful. They were looking at like some of the Amish type people, in like Pennsylvania and Ohio and around, and how they've maintained their traditions, since the 1800s and all. And to me, that's terrible. Well, why would you do that? You're not only doing that to yourself, you're doing that to humanity, because you have the potential to offer so much to humanity. And you take hundreds and you take thousands of people that have simply stagnated and stymied themselves into maintaining what was believed under. Look, to me, if you are simply maintaining what was, and this holds true with the religious folks as too, how we embrace religious teachings and what we have embraced as gospel truth in our religions and all. Man, if you're holding on to something that someone came up with in the 1860s, those people came up with something, they were cutting edge for their time, that they came up with something that was different than what everybody else had been used to. If you're a religious person and you're claiming on to insights and understanding from 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, whatever the religion is, look, those people that you're looking at, that you're reading and studying from, they were cutting edge from their time. They didn't hold on to what was written 1,000 years before them. Why are we doing that? They took what they knew and built upon it. We should take what we know and build upon it. And as we build upon it, we'll recognize some truths in that, but we'll also recognize some errors. We're humans. But when you simply maintain what someone believed or thought the way it was supposed to be so many centuries ago, there's no growth in that. There's no revelation in that. We talk about revelation being something that we get from reading an old scripture. No, revelation would be alive. Revelation would be now. Revelation are ideas, are thoughts, are insights, understanding that we gain from basing our knowledge on what we receive from them, and now the knowledge and insight and understanding that we have now, that we can improve upon them or we can disprove them. But whatever it is, we're going to improve, okay? So I'm suggesting is, so these thoughts that I've even given you, about Star Trek and the ramifications and people with 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head and all that stuff. These are thoughts outside of the box. And that's where we need to be. We need to be living and dwelling outside of the box. And I was thrilled to see all the inventions at the CES convention in Nevada 2026. All the artificial intelligence, the robots, all the stuff that they have that's so modern, so cutting edge. And to me, man, it's like the future is going to be amazing. And we have so many people today even that have an issue with artificial intelligence. Come on now. That's ridiculous. I had a guy telling me, it's going to be bad, for the future, all this stuff. Man, they said that about the car. They said that about the locomotive. They said that about the airplane. They said that about the iPhone. They probably said that about the telephone, the telegraph, and all that stuff. Man, this is called progress. It's going to be good for our future. Just be pliable. That's my suggestion. Just be able to think outside the box, but allow yourself to be influenced by things outside the box. And then use your mind to determine, does this make sense or not? Is this real or not? Is this going to be good or bad? Don't let your negative impulses run away from you. Embrace progress. Embrace technology. future's going to be great. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm 67, I'll be 68 in 2026. Just staying healthy, exercising, eating right, living as long as I can until they come up with things that can make me live even longer. Who knows, man? I think it's going to be good, man. I'm excited about the future. And in order to embrace the future properly, we have to be thinking logically. We have to be thinking sensibly. And we're going to let go of things that don't make sense, okay? And there's an old saying, I think it's a Jewish saying, that says if you want to grasp, you know, what it is there for you, you have to be willing to let go then what you've been holding on to. And some of those things we've been holding on to are old ideas that don't even make sense. And we know they don't make sense. But we let go. I think it was Jesus in Scripture that says that the truth will make us free. That's the letting go of things that aren't legit. Things that don't make sense, but we've been holding on to. Let go of them. There is a freedom in that. And that freedom opens your fingers, allows to fall away the things that aren't real, but also prepares you to receive that which is. I think we'll close with that. I've been here long enough. I do want to thank you once again for joining me for another perspective. And I want to invite you to join me again. You take care.